Kevin, what do you dream about?
Well, that would require sleep, but I get all the sleep I need when I'm dead, I guess. When I sleep, I never dream. I live my dreams at full throttle instead. It can be exhausting to live a life with this constant and relentless drive for perfection, to do everything better tomorrow than I did it today. Most would call it a curse. I guess I call it motivation.
Is it always about going faster? Living faster?
No, but there is this undeniable rush you get when something as simple as the twist of your wrist or a flick of your foot allows you to manipulate massive explosions, tremendous heat, and forces you otherwise couldn't. There's always this little bit of fear when you hammer a throttle, but a split second after, it's as if you realize you are in control of hell on earth and you're smiling about it. It's not about going or living faster. It's just about living. It fascinates me that a machine can take you to the ragged edge of your comfort zone and beyond. And when it does, that's when you know you're alive. It's a passion.
What is it about this car? Why is this the car that started it all?
Well, I'm not one to place tremendous value in material things. My satisfaction comes more from building and creating than it does from ownership. But this car and one motorcycle I'm building now are two material things that have a deep sentimental value. My mother and stepfather married when I was 5, and right away I was thrown into the car and motorcycle world. And back in 1983, my stepfather bought this car. It's the first thing I ever turned a wrench on, the first engine I ever had a hand in, the first car I ever detailed. And through the late 80s and early 90s, this car won every show it entered. From a Best Paint Award from Barry McGuire and Grand Champion at the Street Machine Nationals, Grand Champion and Best GM at the Muscle Car Nationals, top 5 at the Super Chevy Nationals, and on and on. It was always shown, but it was never really driven, and kind of got retired as a show car around 30 years ago. It sat in a garage, pretty much under plastic ever since. And I never got to drive it when I was a kid, and it's taken me 30 years to get it.
So tell me more about the car.
Well, it's a 1967 Chevelle Super Sport. I've always liked the look and sharp edges and body lines on mid to late 60s muscle cars, and 67 was the last year before the Chevelle body panel started to kind of take more of a round shape. I mean, that car was actually built in the Atlanta plant the 3rd week of May in 1967. It was owned by an older couple and barely driven for about 15 years. Then it went to its second owner for only a few months, and then to my stepdad. But now the car's quite a bit different.
What have you done to it? What are your goals for it?
I spent a lot of late nights in the garage at home over the past few months. Now it's a monster valve aluminum head 427 custom grind cam that's honestly really a little too big for a street car, and all the magic good stuff inside, of course. It's a close ratio Muncie 4-speed, a 373 posi rear end. It's got 3-inch stainless exhaust with an H pipe. I did install closed loop fuel injection on it. It's running 4 injectors, squirting about 400 pounds an hour. I put in a Hall effect distributor in it, a CDI box and a coil. Then I replaced all the worn out bushings with stuff from Energy Suspension, the polyurethane ones, of course. Swapped out the springs, lowered it 2 inches, put in new ball joints, lower control arms and shocks. I remember when we brought it home, we didn't really have a place to work on it. He didn't really have a place, and so at the end of the driveway, the town that I grew up in, it's a large town now, but it was a small town then, and the house was located kind of at the end of the street, and not really having a place to work on it, he built it was basically a shed, a shack, at the end of the driveway, and it was just, you know, typical 2x4 shack type thing, and he sheathed it with 1/2-inch particle board, and it was never finished. And got to the point after a while, of course, the water, rain, and such started destroying the panels. So here was this car was built in a shack, wrapped in tarps to try to hold it together. And you know, all these years, as the shop's grown and, you know, more equipment, more tools, I've chosen to work on this car at home. It's almost visceral to, you know, I remember then not really having all the right tools. You know, all your wrenches seemed to be too long, all your sockets weren't deep enough, your broken screwdrivers, you know, just doing what you had to do to get it together. And despite having some of the best tools you could have at my shop, when I come home and work on this car, it's almost an emotional side that I don't want fancy equipment. I want the basic hand tools. I want the challenge of the minimalistic side of this thing. And I'm sure you guys that have been around for a while, you know, you remember the days when you were young and had no money, just trying to make a car work and just get by with the very basics. And I enjoy that aspect of this, but understand it was built as a show car. It wasn't, it was never a driver. It was never intended to be a daily driver. And that's been one of my challenges with this car, is I want to drive it and enjoy it. And so when I got it, a large part of this has been just me going through it to make it reliable. So this is actually what came out of it. These are the rear coils, and you'll notice the clamps on this side. Kind of demonstrates how weak the left-hand spring is. These old GMA bodies are known for sagging on the left-hand side. So despite the fact dual clamps and shrinking the spring that much, that sat the car level. So we're getting rid of those. And this is the original spring. So let's say it's actually a small block spring. The big block cars had beefier springs on them. And what we're going with is this, so a little bigger coil. Of course, these springs again are incredibly weak, just with age. These are the original springs, so I figure by the time I'm 60 years old, I'll be sagging too. But that's what's going in, and that's what we're doing today. Oh yeah, there we go. Excellent. The ball joint popped loose for us, so we're resting on the nut, and we're going to see if we can walk this control arm nice and easy without a spring coming at us. That's part of the joy of being able to finally make this car a reliable daily driver. These are going to line up perfectly fine. Then I had to tackle the front disc brake conversion. So I actually called Bill at Lead Brakes. Used their disc drum master cylinder, a combo valve, their electric vacuum pump too, and put in new brake lines throughout. And the car absolutely stops like a dream now. Next was the wheels. So I called Barry Templeton at Vision Wheel. We had to go through quite a few trial fits to find the perfect sizes and look that I was going for without modifying any of the stock sheet metal. The car's completely rust free, so I didn't want to change anything there. Then came the tires. Called my buddy Phil Waters at Dunlop, and he helped me get squared away there. And then that's when the details really started. Rebuilding the original clock and the tack, getting the AM radio working, all the gauges, the lights, replaced some weather stripping, realigned some of the body panels, refinished the trunk to its original spatter paint condition. Then went to work on the paint. I've got probably 20 hours worth of paint correction, touch-ups, and then ceramic coating it with, Wizards stuff. Getting the alignment right was quite a task too, because the headers are massive. I had to reshape the tubes and mold the upper control arms to fit and get the alignment spot on where I wanted it. It handled absolutely horribly before, but she tracks pretty good now. So I do want to say thanks to Bill at Lead Brakes, Barry at Vision Wheel, Adam at Wizards Products, and one of the best parts about the bike and the car industries is when you get to make friends with people who share your passion and insist on making quality products. So as for my goals for it, I'm sure I'll always find something to improve on it. It's just my way. But I didn't build it to look at it. I built it to drive it like I'm pissed off at it.
What got you into motorcycles?
Oh, that's easy. Two answers. One, early on I realized you could fit more motorcycles in a garage than you could of cars. And two, you can't hide anything on a motorcycle. The frame, the underside of the fuel tank, the seats, the brake lines, the engine are all right in your face. If your wiring's sloppy, you can see it. So I see motorcycles as even more of a challenge, an opportunity to feed who I am. And I love cars and motorcycles.
It seems to me there's more to this story. You're leaving something out. What's the emotional attachment?
Well, I put up a lot of walls to the outside world when I was a kid. Let's say I didn't grow up on a TV sitcom by any means. About the only time there wasn't absolute turmoil in the house was when I was in the garage with this car. And it was just me and my stepdad. Something as simple as spending hours with a Q-tip, polishing every square inch of the chrome and paint all night long was an escape. Every second as a kid spent making this car as perfect as I knew how 35 years ago was 1 second I was alone in my mind with my thoughts, and I was separate from the rest of the world. I guess I was never really alone. I had my motivation to keep me company. That machine represents some of my fondest childhood memories, and it set me on a path to where I am today. To To imagine, create, build, then live your creation and be able to share it with other people, possibly building their dream for them, is an absolute incredible way to live. I mean, the car was a great car 30 years ago. I guess to some degree I needed closure on some of the dark dark chapters of my childhood. And making that car even better, perfecting it, refining it, had to be the ultimate test for me mentally. I simply had to do it finally my way.
Would you ever sell it?
It would take a special person who could understand that they are purchasing my happiness as a kid and the very essence of who I am as an individual. You know, understand that it's taken me 30 years to get this car. Passion is about far more than money. So try prying hands off something that defines who a person is. That would be tough for anyone.
For people that aren't into cars or motorcycles like you are, that may want to understand what all this really means, what would you say to them?
I can no more explain passion to a person who's never experienced it than I can explain light to the blind. You can't fake it. If passion drives you, let the reason behind it take control of it. Nothing is as important as passion for what you love and life itself. No matter what you want to do with your life, you must be passionate about it. You know, if you feel like there's something out there that you're supposed to be doing, if you have a deep-rooted passion for it, then stop dreaming about it and just do it. If you live your dreams at full throttle, you never have to worry about waking up from a dream of having once lived.